Hello, hello. All right, there we are. Christian Hernandez here. I'm the senior editor of Sports Video Group. Thank you, NAB, for having us. If you read the title of the session, it's kind of self-explanatory. We're talking about the stadiums of the future. Stadiums nowadays are not what they used to be, right? You can go to back in the day, get your popcorn, get your soda or your alcoholic beverage, and you would sit down and enjoy the game. Now it's like going to a sporting event plus like sort of like Broadway on steroids with all the technology that these folks and the industry is doing. So we're here to talk about all the things driving in-venue productions and the technology behind it. I have a really cool panel of people here, really diverse panel. Some very long friends, some that I'm just meeting. So if you can go down the line, Ryan, you can start us off to say who you are, who you work for, and what you do.
Great, thank you. So I'm Ryan Cole. I'm the VP of Video Technology at Cosm. We're really focused on creating immersive shared reality experiences, but that's really powered by our massive 12K LED domes. We're bringing fans closer to the action than ever before. So we're really focused on delivering on that in our venues across the world.
Laura.
Yeah, happy to be here. Laura Johnson. I go by LJ, Senior Director of Game Presentation and Live Events for the San Francisco 49ers. We just had a $70 million production renovation at Levi's Stadium with our 4K UHD video boards and control room. So in terms of what we do on our side, game presentation experience, immersive experiences for the 49ers and Levi's Stadium.
Hi, I'm Rick Gibson. I am the Vice President of Lumen's Vivix Broadcast Solutions. We focus primarily on transmission and cloud productions for the broadcast industry. We're built into all the venues across the United States, some in Europe. And with a big focus on delivering live events.
Hello, my name is Scott Sullivan. I work at Shure. I'm vice president of a group that just got started about 3 years ago called Strategy and Innovation. Been at the organization for 34 and a half years. Company's 100 years old as of last year. And I'm really excited about taking microphones into the new digital realm like we did and have been doing in the conferencing space, and we've been doing it now for broadcast for over about 2 years. So that's quite exciting. I'm really excited to be on the panel with some of my colleagues here because I'm learning a lot as we start to go into the new space in new ways. So it's exciting.
Definitely appreciate you guys being here. We have a lot to talk about, so we'll do a quick opening question. When we say stadium of the future, what does that necessarily mean to you? Is that more so prioritizing revenue? Is that more so prioritizing production, technology? There's a ton of different ways you can go with it. So since you're right next to me, Ryan, you get to go first.
Yeah, I can feel that one first. I think the biggest thing for us is the fan experience, right? Like it's number one. And for us, we're really trying to transport the fans to being courtside at a basketball game, pitch side at a soccer game, you name it. But the technology really comes together, and the main focus is to make it so that technology is invisible. Invisible technology is visual magic, right? Like when you really get down to the nitty gritty of it, it allows you to really transform the nature of the experience. And that's really what we're focused on.
LJ, yeah, same thing for you. Same question.
Yeah, I think you're going to hear a lot of very similar threads on this panel, right? Which is fan experience. And first and foremost, I think there's a want and a need by our customers, by our fans to have that shared experience, but it needs to be elevated. It needs to be something that is really a wow for them because the product is so good, especially in the NFL. It's so good to watch at home on television. So we need to give them a compelling reason to come to the stadium to have those moments with us. And when it comes to technology in the future, it's really how do we continue to elevate what we're doing in stadium from what they want to consume, not only just the game itself, but stats and how they're consuming information. And then that goes back to revenue as well. And so there are opportunities there to continue to elevate what we're doing with revenue in stadium, along with those experiences, because it's so important and impactful. That's what people are really craving right now, is that shared moment and that shared experience.
Yeah, Rick and Scott, same question for you guys. As from the vendor side of things, is it different or similar?
Oh, no, it's very similar. I mean, for us, it's really empowering, empowering the broadcaster, empowering the league, empowering the stadium. So we really focus on the infrastructure, getting that in there for the fan experience. It requires a ton of capacity, right? So the more enrichment that's actually done, the more capacity, the more solutions, and it has to be reliable all at the same time. So our focus is making sure that Ryan and LJ is it has that reliability and that capacity to make that fan experience.
Yeah, I think it's some of the differences. I'll say just some of the differences in terms of fan experience. Being in the microphone company of audio, it used to be just the broadcasters in the truck, and what were the people at home hearing? Until about maybe 6 years ago, when we realized, if the fan can experience and hear that great tackle at home with their great speakers and all these things, why can't the fan in the 400 level hear that? And why can't we do some of those things? And we started to work with the on-site audio, the engineers that actually they're not just in charge of bringing it home that mix you hear at home, but also how do you share that and make it more immersive and make it more make it more equal, regardless of where you're sitting. You get this, not just see it, but you get to hear it. So that's the exciting part about we say the use word immersive, and it's a good word, but really equality is a good word too, because I think people that are at that having that fan experience, they should be able to experience as much as possible, not just what's happening on the court, but also off the court as well.
I think that's the crux of the conversation, where technology at its core of all the things that you guys are doing individually and equally is the reason why stadiums of the future are possible. And you said the buzzword immersion. I'll use that.
Okay.
Right. And you're right, though. Equal, I guess, equal across the board sound, where if you're near the 50-yard line right there or all the way up top in the cheap seats, right, you need to hear that. So let's go with you, Scott. Let's stick on that. The idea of understanding that immersion is necessary, but I guess talking to different teams, how is that? How do you make that a league-wide, a team-wide thing where everyone is kind of adopting that in order to make that a
Well,
possibility?
you first have to start with, the really smart people that are actually at the venues, that are really doing things, that are trying to deliver different, whether it be video, audio together, analytics, all the things Laura talked about. But we had a product that we actually made for conferencing called the MXA 910, and it was brand new. Where you talk about invisible, no microphones anywhere. It's in the ceiling. Nobody even knew that there was a microphone in the room, and some smart people up in Canada, some smart engineers that run hockey up there, took a microphone that was used for a conference, and basically a technology that we incorporated called voice lift. They basically did that for ice and the sounds of ice, and they put it underneath the scoreboard, and they basically then piped those sounds, coined the term ice lift, and then started to equally distribute that sound across the whole venue. People are like, wait a second, we're hearing the sound that we've never heard before when we're sitting up in level 200 and 300. And then it started in my mind, in terms of, from an audio perspective, of how could we do this more and more with these kind of digital microphone arrays, which we'll get into tomorrow. And how can we work with folks like Laura to actually kind of connect not just what fans see and hear, but what are the fans seeing and hearing inside the venue? And how can we build on that and elaborate?
You also said the word connection, and it's perfect because Rick is on the connectivity side of things. That's a huge part of the game day experience, that everything is tethered and working in synchronized together in harmony, and just making sure that you have that layer to do that, and making sure it's reliable, and there's fail safes, but you don't want to get there. But can you dive deeper into what Lumen is doing for that, and making sure that the game presentation and whole fan experience side of things are built together?
Yeah, you've really got two areas that we focus on. You've got the truck dock, right? So we build into the stadiums, and then we build the infrastructure to the truck dock, and then enhance the overall experience with a suite of products that we actually provide at the truck dock. Everything from encoded video to 10, 20, 100 gig EPLs, Ethernet, voice, just a myriad of services that you can actually have, right there at the truck dock. Additionally, it's providing that for the stadium, right? So the stadium itself isn't just a stadium; it's a production house. So they need a ton of capacity, and they have to be able to move content in and out of the stadium at the same time. So it's building all that infrastructure in and having those services available. If you look at where we've come from, in the past, you might have a few gig worth of connectivity into a stadium, and now it's multiples of 100 gig connectivity into stadiums, just for all that, all the content that has to move in and out of the stadium, and it all ties back to fan experience.
These two individuals have, I'm biased, fans of both of you guys. So it's one of the cooler venues out there in your own respects, because when we say Cosm as a venue, it's kind of that through line, because the game is not actually happening at your space, but it is happening at your space in the way you're doing it. But LJ, we'll talk first. That renovation at Levi Stadium is built on all the technologies that you and your team and your organization at the highest level is really committed to. Dive deeper into why the technologies that you went into it and how it's making a huge difference.
Yeah, I think, when it comes to the renovation and what we wanted to achieve, it was really about, for us, not only hosting world-class venues, right, or being a world-class venue and hosting world-class events like Super Bowl and FIFA on the horizon, but we have world-class aspirations for ourselves, and we want to produce our own home games at a world-class level, and that requires that type of technology. It requires us to be on the bleeding edge. The other part of it is we are in the heart of Silicon Valley. We have a responsibility, I feel like, when you work for the San Francisco 49ers, to be on the cutting edge when it comes to technology and innovation. And so for us, it really allowed us to unlock a lot in terms of our production capability. Mentioned that there's the production house of the stadium, and it's not just those 10 home games out of the year. There's also other events that come through the stadium that require the central control room, the hub, the heartbeat of what we're doing. But when we talk about fan experience and what we're programming in stadium, we also have to think about how that resonates across broadcast, right? When all of our broadcast partners come in and when they're trying to create that environment at Cosm, they're also taking what we're programming in stadium, and that's translating back through the lens of our broadcasters. So that infrastructure of the control room, the truck dock, everything that we have has to be connected, and it's all through the technology that we're talking about today.
Right. Like you said, you have to give the canvas for those networks to do the job that they do. And like you said, you're giving them feeds, but also they're building on top of that. And to build on your point, LJ, the idea of expanded productions, you're not just doing, gone are the days of just, hey, show up to the game, we're going to entertain you for 3 hours, and then that's it. You're doing watch parties for drafts. You're helping your digital team out by, Rick's point about the connectivity layer and making sure file transport and all that stuff. You guys are working so tight in together that it's not just, hey, show up and go home.
No, I mean, the day is so much longer than it has ever been previously. When we talk about, where fan experience is going from the moment people are coming into the gates, premium, right, is coming in earlier. So how we're entertaining people from the moment they're walking in to the moment that they leave, and really just seeing the transition when we talk about technology and stadiums of the future, going from SD to HD to now to UHD and whatever is next on the horizon. But expansion is where we're going, right? We're not shrinking. Everything that we've been doing for the last, let's call it 20 years, from SD, HD, now UHD, is all about growth, expansion, and how much further of a reach we can get from the stadium production that we're doing.
And Ryan, last but not least, from your facility, explain a little bit about the tech stack that you have going on there, how it's more than just that massive screen that's basically transporting people to the venue that they're seeing.
Yeah. So what's really interesting about all of it is they play into everything that we have to do. So without them, we can't do what we do, right, and deliver on the stuff that we need to deliver on. But LJ touched on it. At the end of the day, like the biggest thing about everything is that we're connected. We're connected in a way that makes sense. For on our end, we like to be agile and very fluid when it comes to coming into your environments and making sure that we come in and do the things that we need to do to deliver on what we're doing. But we're also on the bleeding edge. We live on the bleeding edge. When I say bleeding edge, I'm not talking UHD. I'm talking 8K plus, 12.5K, you name it. Like we're focused on moving content in a very distributed way and really thinking about it differently than current traditional methods, because at the end of the day, we need to really carry uh, a larger weight to what's really visible in the venue. And what you would want to perceive while being courtside at a basketball game, for instance, we want you to experience that one-to-one eye in relation to our domes and what we're trying to focus on there. So it's really important that we stay on the bleeding edge and we're consistently connecting fans in the venue, but also all the tech around it into our venues.
Um, Obviously, these people have success stories, but it's not without challenges and issues and things that they overcome to figure that out. And this is a perfect place to do it because we're here to learn, we're here to find solutions. So, Ryan, we'll go back down the line. What are some of the challenges that you're seeing from your venue, and how are you going about finding solutions to those challenges?
That's a really good question. I think the biggest thing is really making sure we continue scaling the business in a way that makes sense, but also thinking about the technology in a way that really levels up the experience, right? We talked about fan experience at the very beginning, and that's number one for us. And for us, we talk about a communal shared experience. So shared reality is what we call it. And so we're really bringing fans together to really, celebrate the fandom, the moments where they can't get to places around the world. And so our biggest challenge is to really bring those fans and those local markets together to really elevate that experience and make them feel like they're stadium side, right? That's utilizing the audio, that's utilizing the video, and really kind of bridging the boundaries of traditional tech, right? We need to make sure that we're constantly evolving that to make it feel surreal. Really, that's really the nature of it.
Oh yeah, LJ, same question for you. The challenges and solutions.
Challenges and solutions. Look, we learned a lot last year with everything that we had with the renovation. I think the biggest thing for this audience to consider when we're talking about stadiums of the future, we're talking about technology and where it's going, isn't just the technology itself. You also have to scale people, right? You also have to scale for the media consumption itself, right? So we are, 4K end to end, so glass to glass. What we're capturing on the camera lens all the way through to the board itself, where does all that media go, right? We had similar challenges way back in the day when we went from SD to HD, but that's another thing that you have to think through is where is the media going? How are we storing it? How are we managing it? So when we think about stadiums of the future and we're thinking about technology, and that's what this panel is talking about, on the venue side and some of these other venues that we've been talking about, you have to think through the people, who's managing it, how many people do we have to staff it. We're growing the technology, then you also have to scale your people and your media asset management and everything that goes with it. It's pretty much a one-to-one line, if you will.
And on the vendor side, guys, same question, challenges and solutions. But when you're talking to individuals like LJ or Ryan or the people, the clients in the industry, what are some of those requests that you're hearing from them? What are some of their pain points that you're like, hey, we're here to help you out. Thanks for coming to us.
Well, the requests are, I would say, based in flexibility, right? Everybody needs something a little bit different, right? LJ's needs are going to be a little bit different from Fox or CBS or NBC or Prime. Everybody needs something just a little bit different. So they want the flexibility to place an order, but then change that 15 minutes before the game. So there's a big requirement of flexibility. The thing everyone focuses on is reliability. It's you're always you're only as good as your last feed, right? So if you go off the air, that's not good. So we have to, when we look at a stadium, because we build into these stadiums, it's our glass, it's our transport, it's completely managed by Lumen. And we take a look at that, and whenever a stadium's being constructed, like the new stadium in Nashville, the one in Buffalo, we look at those and go, okay, how do we actually build diversity out of the stadium? With separate glass coming out, different entrances, different paths to different locations within the city, to make sure that that you don't get that backhoe fade, on a Sunday. So it's a big focus and an area that that we're always trying to achieve.
Scott.
Yeah, I agree a lot with what's said here. From an audio perspective, we're also looking at their customers, the behavior of the customers. So when it comes to data and things that LJ talked about, um, we're trying to get a step ahead. So when we may have a technology, excuse me, that maybe it's not out yet from an audio perspective. Years ago it was always hot mics. Oh, that's a hot mic. It's open. That's changing now, right? That mic is actually very, very smart, along with connected to the video camera, connected to how you drive revenue from that. We need to get ahead of that. So getting ahead of it might be, hey, we want to hear something we could never hear before. Maybe the sound of that tackle, it never sounded that way, and it's really, really entertaining. We should be going through what we're doing, understanding what those behaviors are, so we can sit down and talk about the roadmap or experiment. We have some of that feedback from customers, and we're sitting down with Laura and saying, "Hey, what about this?" Or maybe you missed the sound that you wanted to capture or wanted to have. How do you bring that back? How do you kind of bring the past back and put it into the future? Some of those things that we've been very, very excited to talking about. So taking experiment time with both of these experts here and their colleagues, it's extremely important for us. And the nice thing is they'll give it to us because, hey, we're trying to offer stuff, and we also have lots of analytical data on fans or the customers that are getting that content. So that's how we're putting it together at Sure, is being prepared. So when Laura invites us out, we're ready. We're ready to go with some new and creative ideas that maybe some other sport's doing, or maybe some other venue, or maybe it's a different industry altogether that actually has been working, and trying to bring those things together.
Right. Understanding what the people you're working with want, like you said, and incorporating feedback. And I think from your both of your standpoints, the solutions are customizable, right? Because you're not going to give something to LJ that you'll give to someone else. Like
Right.
really understanding their mission and their goal and their vision, and understanding how to actually implement it in real life. Because we can talk about technology all day, but if it's not something that you can actually use, it's not really worth it.
Can I add one more thing?
Of course you can.
Might be Laura may say, take that out. I don't want to hear that.
That's fair.
Can you actually remove that?
That's fair. LJ and Ryan, I'll pose this to you. It's important to understand that technology is important, but you need to do it with cost efficiency in mind, right? You can't break the bank, so you can't invest further. So how do you do that? Doing it in a smarter way, integrating in a smarter way, and understanding that this investment is important, but doing it with cost in mind. Ryan, you can go first.
Yeah. So on our end, we're really focused on a capture once, distribute everywhere kind of methodology. And what that really means is utilizing the high resolution capture to accommodate multiple partners and clients in our wheelhouse, right? And so one of the things that we do is really focus on that high resolution capture, but then also do a 2D, a rectilinear format out for broadcasters for linear use. And so we can do live and replay for that out of the same immersive capture, right? And so that on top of all these other different products that we do from that same camera, same glass, it really allows us to be efficient, and it allows us to really scale appropriately and offer things that have never been out on the market before. And that's really key, I think, more than anything else. We're really focused on our venue delivery, but in order to do that, we really have to think about our technology and how it scales both for us, but for our partners, our broadcasters, the leagues, you name it. That's really the most important thing for us.
LJ.
When it comes to the investment, stadium infrastructure to this scale doesn't really come around too often. It's usually every 10 years or so that teams are willing to make that kind of significant investment. And so there's a responsibility to get as much as we can out of the dollars that we have access to. And you do that in with consultants, with our systems integrators, trying to figure out how we're going to get the most out of the dollars that we're spending, number one. Number two is saying, what are we trying to solve for? Like, how are we programming, looking this from a programming perspective and saying, what do we need to, at a baseline, accomplish what we're trying to do? Where did we leave off, right? So we have to be able to achieve everything from where we previously were. If we don't do that, we're going to be starting with our foot in the hole. So we have to start from the baseline. Where did we leave off? And then where are we going? Making sure that we can be expansive in what we're doing. We're going to live with this technology for pretty long time at the stadium. So we need to be able to grow with it. So we don't want to max out in year one. The goal was do not max out in year one. Give yourself room to grow because we need to continue to grow with it as technology continues to advance. We know the moment we install the gear, there's already updates coming. There's already changes in the landscape. We all know that from technology. So it's about spending the dollars wisely in our world on that initial investment and making sure that we have the capability to continue to expand as technology comes online, gives us an opportunity to work with various partners that we have in Silicon Valley from a revenue generating perspective. But it's also about making sure that we can continue to grow, use it wisely, spend smartly, and let's get the most that we can out of the dollars that we spent.
Sure. You want to use your previous project as a launching pad for this one, and we throw around the buzzword future proof. You want to make sure that you're in a position for success because if you have to spend money to just fix on something that you did previously, it's like you said, you're going to start in the hole. Um, we're talking about stadiums of the future. Yours is one of them, and an event that is kind of a perfect example of all this convergence of going on is the Super Bowl. So can you talk about the work that you did there and I guess how that game is achieving what we're all talking about right now?
Yeah, so for everybody sitting out there, one of the things that, we talk about Super Bowl 60 being in our building, a lot of that planning process actually happened years prior to that with our renovation project and leading into the project itself. So reaching out to Van Wagner, who comes in and runs the production for the Super Bowl, for the league, having a great relationship with them. But really, right after the Super Bowl, I believe it was 57 in Arizona, I reached out to them and said, give me your whole input output list. I need to know what you have and what's coming so we can build the room to handle that. And I think one of the proudest moments for me standing in that room during Super Bowl 60 is knowing that we built the room to do exactly that and it performed, right? And that's a really proud moment to know that all of the feeds coming in from the truck dock, all of the feeds coming in from around the building and what they wanted to accomplish from a league level was achievable based off of all of the years of work that we had put in prior to that. Again, couldn't do it without our consultants, without our systems integrators, knowing that that's what we were trying to achieve with Super Bowl. And to your point, that's one that pushes us to the limit. I mean, we only had 10 home games under our belt prior to the biggest sporting event in the world taking place in our building. That's a lot of pressure, but we pressure tested it the entire way. We ourselves on the 49ers side pushing at every step of the way, every single game, debriefing, going over the notes. How are we going to fix this? How are we going to continue to put ourselves in a position to be ready for that event and pressure testing it? But really proud moment to see it all come together and know that it was achievable based off of all the work that we had put in.
Yeah, that's probably the topic that we haven't brought up is that with the stadiums of the future being a thing, you're being inundated with so many more things because, like you said, we're talking about in-venue productions, but as broadcasts become even larger in scale, you need a control room and facilities to withstand that and hold the line because you can't that can't fall and fail at that moment when it's time to perform. And just one more note on your project. Most people do control room projects and that's it. LJ and her team did a multiple phased project in one go because it's video boards, it's control rooms, it's lighting, it's audio, it's speakers, and it was amazing for the world to see. So congratulations again. Ryan, from your standpoint, you're in a unique perspective because you're kind of writing the blueprint of what you guys are doing as you're doing it. And there's a paradigm shift where people are like, yeah, I'd love to come to the game, but Cosm's a pretty, it's like 1A. Let's go to Cosm because we're going to feel like we're there. How are you doing what you're doing? And also, I guess, setting people up for the future for when this is not, when it's more commonplace, right? When you can understand that this is how we do it. This is room to grow. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first thing is that again we're very agile when we come into our productions, and our footprint is like a 28 RU rack out in a stadium, and we're constantly focused on delivering the production value that's required of our fans. But it's really thinking about the venues a little bit differently. Like the way that we contribute to the fandom for our fans is by really translating the stadium environment of the 49ers into our wheelhouse, right? How do we do that? And how do we do that at scale, right? It's not just about the nature of doing it for one event. It's doing over 450 events, live events a year, on top of thinking about how we regionalize that across our markets, right? And so as we continue building our venues and scaling there on the Cosmo side, we're really focused on, maintaining the quality and increasing the ability to deliver on our content, but also making sure that we're thinking about all of our partners along the way, and making sure that we can also offer other things and other tools that we've also built and created on our end because we found a need in the market for them to kind of level up the traditional broadcast method.
Yes, we're going to bring Rick and Scott back into the conversation because I think it was you, Rick, that talked about the idea of venues now being media environments. So with that in mind, I just talked earlier that there's more things occurring just inside those four walls. There's digital activations, there's social media integration, even inside the stadium, and that needs to come with, latency, connectivity. So talk to that piece of the puzzle.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, eliminating latency is one of the key areas that you have to focus on. If you're encoding or if you have actual Ethernet that has just increased latency, it's a non-starter. You go back to the Super Bowl. If you look at the type of media event that is, for that game, of course we carried it for NBC and for the NFL. But for an instance like that, we have all that connectivity, we have all the services inside the stadium, but for that level, we actually even send an expando and then extend our fiber from the stadium out to the expando. So you basically have a pop on site. So it's just like a localized pop, that we can actually turn. That you basically have all the broadcasters, all the media outlets can actually run over and connect right up to us with fiber, and then you're on our backbone for that event. And so we typically do that for all major for all the major events. Wow, all of a sudden I got really loud too. But yeah. So it's really how with each event, it's a different media experience for those stadiums.
And yeah, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, if I could just touch on the previous point though you were
Sure.
making with Laura and Ryan. I think it's important from vendors to actually come together. We just had an announcement with a new partner, Edge Sound Research, that does some really, really cool things with sound and matching sound to video with their virtual sound engine, but also with immersive on the output side, right? Where you can actually feel and get involved in the game very, very different by using our audio and some of their brand new kind of very, very innovative the transducer devices. We need to come together with partners to when we're going to sit down with Laura and Ryan, we're going to say, hey, we figured some of these things out together. And it's not just one partner, it's two, maybe it's four. But we're coming together, so we're bringing this solution together for you. And we've either figured it out or we've actually come across, pitch it, say maybe there's some other ideas that starts the conversation up on what that future roadmap thing could be. So you're basing that partnership on things you already know today. But then you're also saying, hey, we're going to spend the money. We're going to invest in these other companies and form partnerships so we can actually provide better solutions to Laura and Ryan. So that's on us. We need to be doing that. We need to be investing that way ahead of time. So I did want to get involved in that part of the conversation because we're doing that. And we're doing that with other partners. It's not just one component, one microphone. It's a combination of a solution and thinking about that way ahead.
Right. There's definitely a flow chart because if you're providing LJ, Ryan, and then end users out there with better technology, you're putting them in a better position to better serve their fans. Better served fans mean they're going to come back. They're going to create attachments to the team or the game or the production or whatnot. And I guess to your point, Scott, the question I have for you, understanding the stadium that you're in, there's bigger stadiums, there's open stadiums, there's dome stadiums. Like we said, not one solution is going to fit all. So when these teams are building these sorts of venues, I guess what are one or two things that they are still underestimating about your side of what you're doing?
I think the scale.
Sure.
The underestimation of scale. And this is why we need partners like Edge Sound Research. Like if you're doing a large scale, like a soccer or football, and you're trying to connect audio and video and you're doing it with lots of microphones, array microphones, that's a bit different than doing a basketball game internal. And so those solutions we want to be ready for that scale. And I think right now, we can scale a lot better than people think. So we got to get that out there. We got to get that word out there and say, a great day for me would be if I met with Laura and she said, I didn't know you could do that. Right. When can I have that? Because we could scale for that. And we're putting ourselves in a position to do that across the enterprise. And then figure out also, how do we use what we just call like acoustic signals as data? And how do you store that data as revenue opportunities for things that we've never thought about in the past? You get in that digital realm, now all of a sudden, the sounds are data and it's a different commodity now, right? And how can we actually offer our customers new revenue streams with that data that's collected, whether it's video, audio together, whether it's an immersive sound or a vibration connected to that? People are willing to pay to have these brand new experiences they didn't think they could have before.
A quick transition. We're going to give Ryan and the first crack at this question, and then LJ. We're talking a lot about technology, and it's important, but at the crux of it is you still got to make that environment for the fans the premium, right? You can't just throw technology for technology's sake. So with all this influx of technology, I'm going to keep saying that word. How do you keep up? How do you make sure that the production is still a high quality one, to use technology as your benefit and not overshadow the work that you're doing with a production value? We're talking a lot about technology, but I want to hear from production. How are you doing that, Kasim?
Yeah, I think one of the bigger things is, again, we take it right back to the fan experience and leveling that up. The number one thing for us is to create an experience for our fans that make them want to come back, right? And that's really thinking about how we make a stadium environment happen at COSM, and how we level up the crowd noise and the microphones that are around surrounding the fans in the stadium. How do we give the stadiums the same, our venues the same exact experience, right? And really provide something that's unique to the event, but also unique to the technology. We say this a lot at COSM, but the technology will wow, but the hospitality will also win, right? And so we're really focused on the people. And like LJ said, the people and scaling the people are number one thing for us, but it's also making sure we have the right people in place doing the things that they need to do to solve the challenges that we're facing, but also providing a really good fan experience for our customers.
Because we're at a unique time in the industry where there seems to be a blending of the old way of doing things and the new way of doing things that we're still trying to figure out, hence why we're here. But LJ, how do you do that? How do you still have it's a big stadium, so t-shirt tosses might not be a large thing, but how do you still have those production staples with the technology that you have?
Yeah, I think the way you said it earlier, is it's really important that we don't use technology for technology's sake, and we don't lose sight of what it means to be a fan first. And that's an incredible perspective that we need to have, right? We have a lot of pressures that are around us, to perform, to deliver, to be reliable. But when it comes down to it, it's really about the fan journey itself and reminding ourselves what it's like to be in their seats. And so keeping up with technology, seeing where it's going. I think a big part of that, first and foremost, is here, NAB and other conferences. It's talking to others who are utilizing current technology or looking at future technology and having those conversations. But really, how is it additive to the fan experience and not getting lost by flying too close to the sun of like, we're just going to implement technology for technology's sake. We really want it to be additive to the programming and to the experience that fans are having. And so staying true to that, I think it's a big part of Ryan's talking about the values that they have at COSM and what kind of experience they want to deliver. And that's the same for in stadium. We have to think back to what it means to be a fan. We've been in have been in these jobs for so long that you can lose perspective of what it means to actually be a fan, have those experiences and have those moments. And really, is the technology invisible to some degree. It should be like the fans shouldn't be thinking about the technology. They should be there and having a wonderful experience. And then is it additive? Is it bringing something else to the experience that either they can't get at home or they can't experience somewhere else?
Right. Building your show with awareness and building your show with perspective and understanding that, yes, like you said before, the invisible technology where, yeah, no one should care about the technology. It should be something that's seamless, because that's ultimately, it's not that important. It's important to us, but they just want to be served in the best way possible. We have exactly 5 minutes left. So put your crystal balls out. We're going to ask some kind of future forward questions. We'll go down the line. Scott, you're first. We
Yeah.
cannot not we can't be here without saying the magic words artificial intelligence.
Oh boy.
Do you want to take your first crack at it?
Yeah.
Where's it fit in Stadium?
Well, it's already we actually worked on something called Action Isolator, where we did that for the ambient noise for the audiences, and we focused really on the broadcaster that was bringing the mix home, so they wouldn't have to worry about mixing the ambient sounds. And we did that along with introducing the arrays, the digital arrays into broadcast. So we said, hey, we're going to complement what the engineers do, and babes, take that out of the equation, put it on autopilot. And since then, we've been able to build off that platform, since they've been able to say, well, can you do this? And even folks like Laura that will say, well, you know what, this is a problem. Can that tool be used for this reason too? Can we train it for other things? The answer is yes. Once you do that, it's again not replacing jobs that everyone worries about, gets concerned about. I understand why that's a concern. In this particular case, it's about how do you enhance it? How do you make things faster, flexible, to Rick's point? But also then how do you engage so they can get to better things? They can focus on the sounds people want and not just the bad sounds. This has been really useful for us, because when we created it with their help, and we took some time and really incubated it. And now it's turned into a significant platform for broadcast that we're learning a lot with our customers.
Rick, what about you? Same question.
Oh my, yeah. So in a couple of different areas, right? So we have to use it. One of our taglines is that we're the trusted network for AI. What does that mean? It requires for AI. There's just this huge amount of bandwidth and capacity that's actually needed. How we're using it is to eliminate impacts over the network, how it actually even make the network and the service more efficient for the customers, because everybody wants a ton of capacity, but they don't want to pay for the 49ers don't want to have to pay for a mega ton of capacity on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, and so what we do is we make that to where it's efficient, to where you're only paying for the capacity that you're using. And so using the AI that actually helps us be more efficient and be more reliable.
LJ?
I'm very excited about AI and where we're going as an industry. When I think about how many pieces in our systems and in our workflows are still manual, and how much time that takes up, and where AI can introduce efficiency to allow us to be more creative, I think is what's really exciting to me, because we want to spend more time being creative, creating these experiences for fans, creating moments for them. And to do that, we need to get the other pieces taken care of that just take too much time. And so when we think about how we're managing media, how we're managing all of these assets that are coming in, the thought that AI can replace some of these manual processes for us to allow us to spend more time. Again, when you're talking about scale and you're talking about how many people you have, you still have to make as most of the situation as you can with the amount of people that you have. And if you have the advent of AI coming in and taking care of some of these manual processes, really exciting that we could start to leverage that and allow ourselves to be more creative in a space where I don't think AI is going to be able to go, and allow us on the human side to be able to continue on creativity.
Right.
I think AI is a really good segue into a lot of the different things that we're doing at COSM. One of the things that we really put into perspective is, how do you get more efficient? Just like LJ said, how do you get more efficient with the people you have, but also how do you create and consistently deliver, right? And more so, how do you deliver on things that were never possible before, right? And we're a company, we deliver on things. We're a company that's delivered on things that have never been possible before. And AI is at the forefront of what we're looking to continue building on top of and training models to do a number of different things, whether that's taking PRs out of software related workflows, right, development cycles, or utilizing it to really track the data, right? At the end of the day, going through data for hours and hours and hours on end to find a small thing that AI could do for you in 2 minutes, that's incredible, right? And that's really important as we continue to scale on the Cosmos side.
Awesome. Look at that. You hit it right when it said 0.
Saw it.
Knows how to produce.
One topic that I'm sure is going to be a big one that's on the show floor. You can book it. Obviously, it's not a big bet. I could do this all day, but we ran out of time. I'm sure they will stick around if you have any questions. But Ryan, LJ, Rick, Scott, thank you for the time. Round of applause for everyone. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.